report. Well, this half hour, we want to dig deeper into that as costs are still going up at a rapid pace. The glass half full way to look at this is that the increase was not quite as bad as last month. So you might be wondering, are we leveling off? Well, the report from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that consumer prices rose 0.3% from March to April, after they jumped more than a full percent from February to March. So that month-to-month thing kind of slowed a little bit. But annual inflation, which compares prices now versus the same month a year ago, was at 8.3% for April in this new report. Slightly lower than what we saw for March, and the first time in a long time that the increase hasn't gotten bigger, but it's still 8.3%. So again, we go to that question, is there reason for cautious optimism? Dr. Patrick Penfield is a professor of supply chain management at Syracuse University's Whitman School of Management and a friend of the show. We're glad to have you back on because that really is the question, right? Do you take away from this report any sign that maybe we've peaked or we've plateaued and that maybe things are going to get better?
Hi, Michael, and thanks for having me on again. Unfortunately, I don't think we've peaked. So I think there's just too much going on right now in the economy, which are causing prices to go up. So, I think where we might see the peak is probably in August. So I'm hopeful of all things being, the same and there's really no other variables. But, there's a lot of stuff out there that, that are going to be impacting what we do and what happens with prices. One being COVID, right? So COVID is really impacting China adversely. And we've bought over $506 billion worth of things from China last year. And so, Shanghai, one of the biggest cities in the world, has been on lockdown for about 6 weeks. So, we've got that issue going on. We've got the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which is going to start impacting food prices more. So I'm concerned about food insecurity, not in the United States, but in other parts of the world like Africa and Asia. So that's another concern we have. And then we've got energy prices that keep going up, specifically diesel. So diesel is the one that scares me the most because 70% of what's shipped in the United States is by truck. So if you're a truck driver and you're seeing those diesel prices going up, it's just tough. And they have to pass along those costs to their customers.
Yeah, and that leads right into the next question. We're not going to go too deep into gas and diesel prices because we did talk yesterday here with Gas Buddies Patrick DeHaan. So we know kind of what the forecast is, but you have to imagine the report that we get a month from now, so it will be May's inflation report. That's when you'll factor in this most recent spike that we've seen because it's happened this week alone. I mean, I drove by a station in downtown Buffalo today that was $4.79 a gallon, well over the average, but we're seeing that in some places. And really that most recent hike isn't factored into the report we got today.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, it's a big concern. So I think, like I said, you're still going to start to see things up. I think the other issue we have is we've got this pent up demand in the United States, and a lot of times in the summer months, that's when, people travel and, so you looked at the latest report and you could see transportation prices went up, travel prices have gone up, hotel prices have gone up. So, I can see that being a continuing trend just because, again, of people, really being excited about, not having those COVID lockdowns or those restrictions. So this is where I'm thinking maybe in August we'll get a better view of what's going on. There'll be some other things that are going to be telling. One is, will the supermarkets do what they did last summer, where they brought in extra, inventory? If they do that, that's a good indicator of, hey, they think prices are going up. So that would be something that I'd watch for. Another issue we have that's brewing is the longshoreman contract that expires July 1st on the West Coast. So that would be specifically Long Beach and Los Angeles. Very concerned about that because every time a contract expires, then usually there's some type of strike. 40% of what we bring in the United States from Asia comes through those two ports. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about us having the similar situation that we had last year, third quarter, fourth quarter, as far as not being able to get things.
Yeah, the supply chain is so complicated, right? Yesterday, as we were talking about gas prices, we mentioned hurricane season and what happens if you have a tough hurricane season and you have to shut down refineries and such. And it just has a ripple effect that has nothing to do with the pandemic or anything else. Those are just things that are always factors. I wonder what is still driving the increase in some of these items. We think of food and cars and stuff that we thought by now, we're long past lockdowns. Most things are back to normal. Is it just what's happening in Asia right now and still the ripple effect from what happened to us a year or two ago?
Yeah, there's definitely some food issues going on. The big one is the Russian invasion of Ukraine, right? They actually sell almost 30% of the wheat and corn, and that's between the two of them. In addition to edible oils like sunflower oil, and so that's caused some issues in regards to food. Another issue, and this is like you stated, Michael, is this global supply chain. So we have a tier one supplier, which is your immediate supplier, tier two, a tier three supplier. So those are suppliers of the suppliers. So the dilemma we have is that the component suppliers are having difficulty producing things. So your component supplier might be in China and they're under lockdown and they can't get you that one piece or that one part. And unfortunately, that prevents you from actually making a car. So another example is in the Ukraine, they make about 70% of the neon gas that's used in semiconductor production. So the semiconductors are extremely important, especially for cars. So if you don't have neon gas, you can't really produce those semiconductor chips. Hence, you won't be seeing a whole slew of cars available in these dealer lots.
Finally, Dr. Penfield, the Fed hiked interest rates last week. It followed previous hikes as well. Obviously, the goal of that is to get inflation under control, to kind of cool things down in the economy a little bit. How long is it typically until we start to see signs if that's working or not?
Yeah, I think this one isn't going to be the one that's going to show, kind of ratchet things down. I would say probably another 2 or 3 hikes is when we'll start to see things. So the concern I have is that when the Fed starts hiking rates up, it does start to slow down things as far as people purchasing cars and houses. So, the issue, and this is kind of what this balance they have to strike, is if they go too far with the rate hikes, then they could put the economy in a recession. And if they put the economy in a recession, you'll see prices drop. Prices definitely will drop. But we don't want that to happen because, we want to make sure the economy keeps growing and that we're all gainfully employed. So that's a dilemma, and that's the issue. So I would say probably 2 more, maybe 3 rate hikes, and then we'll start to see hopefully the impact of that.
We always learn a lot when we chat with Syracuse University's Dr. Patrick Penfield. So many factors at play, and we were talking in the commercial break, giving our thoughts about the Bills draft. So maybe we'll ask you about that next time you're on, because even though you're in Syracuse, a Bills fan, so we always appreciate that.
Hey, Michael, go Bills, right?
Go Bills. That's how we like to end. Thanks so much, Patrick. Good to see you.
Take care.